I joined the financial sector in the United States at probably the worst possible time that you could do so. It was in the peak of the recession. People were laying off jobs left and right. And some peers of mine started this nice little movement called the Occupy Wall Street movement back in 2011. So naturally, with the job position that I have, I was instantly labeled a bad guy among my friends. But being the intellectual individual I am, I wanted to know more about it. I wanted to know what their mission was and what they stood for and what they wanted to accomplish with this. But I never really got a clear-cut answer. The biggest answer they could give me was, we are against corporate greed. Corporate greed. So you're mad that companies make money off of stuff that you buy. So when you and everyone you know goes and buys a new iPhone every 6 months when Apple comes out with a new one, you're mad that they make money off of a purchase that you clearly like, a product that they make. So it was confusing to me. It's mind-blowing stuff right now, I know. Essentially, here's what it looks like. There's guys in suits, they're ivory towers, they're looking out over your protesters with the signs and the chants and everything else. They don't really mind that because they're not elected officials, they don't fear you. They have one motive, and that's to make money. And they will look at that crowd and think, how can I make money off of that? It's true, it really is. So in this sense, you can never beat Wall Street. You really cannot. It's a machine that cannot be riled against. However, what I have discovered is that you can use it in the correct way to make the change that you want in the world. This is what needs a metamorphosis. Not the fact that Wall Street exists, but the fact that you see it in the way that you do. It's not a wall blocking change, it's a tool that can help create it. Now, today I'm not going to give you a big long list about how to invest in the stock market, but what I will show you are two ways that you can help bring this change about. There's one direct way and there's one indirect way. Now, if you did both together, that would be awesome, but you don't have to. And neither require that you have a lot of money or a lot of skills, they just have a logical brain. And I'll explain those, and they're both accomplished with the same concept, which is this nice little notion called socially responsible investing, or SRI, because I love acronyms. So there's two approaches to socially responsible investing, which I'll get to in a moment, but the definition itself is really any investment strategy which seeks to optimize financial gain, obviously that makes it a financial strategy, and social good equally, because to create social good is part of the strategy itself. Now, there are two distinct differences in this. Neither one is wrong or right, they're just different. One is the affirmative approach, which is you like a company based on the kinds of change they seek to implement, what they are doing good in the world, what they like to do. And there's a separate acronym for this altogether called ESG, which is environmental and social governance stocks. And then the second, which is the negative, is the opposite of that. So what you are against certain companies based on their certain practices, or as we would on the street call it, sin stocks, or what I would call it, my Friday nights. You too? Cool. Neither one is wrong or right, it really just is aligned to what your values are. Maybe you align more with the affirmative approach, maybe more so with the negative approach. Completely up to you. But what I like to really emphasize is that any investment strategy you have should be aligned with your personal values. And to give an example of this, I want to see by a show of hands in the audience, if I can see you, I kind of can. How many of you are vegetarians or vegans? Okay, that's a good amount of hands. I don't need to ask any questions. Cool. At some point in your career, maybe now, I don't know, you will be offered a 401k retirement savings plan through your employer. In fact, 76% of all employees in the United States, both in the public and the private sector, have one of these offered by their employer. And because they themselves don't manage the money, they outsource it to an investment advisor, to a hedge fund, a mutual fund. It's not in their own house that they're managing this money. So there's this little company, you may have heard of it, it's called McDonald's. Know this? Cool. It's one of the components of the Dow Jones Industrial Average. Now, that's the 30 largest stocks in the stock market at any given time. And because it's such a huge component of the Dow, it's included in everybody's portfolio at the same time. At any given time and over the course of your career, you could invest thousands of dollars in McDonald's, while you yourself, unless you did the research, may not even know it. So going back to those vegetarians and vegans who raised your hands, how does that make you feel knowing that while you're avoiding eating that cheeseburger for lunch, your retirement account is investing in McDonald's? Not something the public generally concerns itself with. It's not too terribly new, but it's not a new concept at all. Actually, it's been around for a really long time. The earliest forms of socially responsible investing trace back to 1758, actually, in Philadelphia, when the Quakers would host their annual meeting, and they wanted to emphasize a new point. It was at the time when the slave trade was huge, and they wanted to deter their members from engaging in business activities with people who were involved with the slave trade for moral and ethical purposes. And the majority of early forms of socially responsible investing were religiously motivated, and that was the case with John Wesley, who's this guy. Where's the arrow? There it is, this fella. Now, some of you may know him. I personally know him, but he was one of the early founders of the Methodist Church in this country. And in the mid-18th century, he gave a very famous sermon. It was called The Use of Money. And in the sermon, he highlighted the importance of people avoiding doing any kind of investing that would harm their neighbors, their friends, their family, and especially their coworkers in terms of their employees and how they would be harmed by any kind of chemicals or any kind of disturbances in their work environment. Which is a pretty radical idea at the time. Both the Quakers and John Wesley came up with this concept. Now, I understand that it took another 100 years to abolish slavery entirely in this country, but think about how quickly technology can move today, and how quickly we know that things are going on in certain parts of the world. What happened in France last night, for instance, we all know that because of what happened today, and it's easily movable. Now, this is a great concept, I know, but what can it really do on a microcosmic level? Well, because I'm hungry, I really am, I'm telling you. And because I just love food, I'm gonna go back to the McDonald's example, for instance, okay? So the foil to McDonald's would be Chipotle, Mexican grill, in my opinion. Foil, get it, it's a burrito. Never mind. So Chipotle, incidentally, was a subsidiary of McDonald's. Some of you might not know this, from 1998 to 2006. And they acquired the company initially with the intent to compete with Taco Bell, because Mexican food was all the rage at the time and they wanted to be exposed to that market somehow. Well, in 2006, they decided to drop it because they said they wanted to focus more on their core business. Well, the reality was Chipotle was stubborn, and they said they didn't want to adhere to any kind of the food standards, franchise measurements, coworker treatment of their employees the same way McDonald's did. This is what the reality was. So McDonald's initially invested $360 million in Chipotle, and they divested it for $1.5 billion. Pretty nice profit, right? Well, guess how much it's worth today? $23 billion. Which incidentally is a third of the value of McDonald's. And now this is food, this is crazy. So this is the winner. This is a little bit dated, I'm sorry, but this is a chart of the performance of both of these stocks in terms of returns over the last about 10 years, since this is 2006. The blue line is Chipotle and the red line is McDonald's. And since 2006, Chipotle stock has returned over 1,300% profit, while McDonald's just 200. That's a pretty big difference. What's the deal with that? Why is someone willing to shell out $9 for a burrito, but not $1 for a cheeseburger? Frankly, caloric intake is about the same, right? Maybe a little bit more with the burrito. God, I'm hungry. Well, here's the reason why. People were putting their money in this socially superior company. It really is true. If you saw recently, McDonald's did a campaign where they had the guy from Mythbusters go back and they went behind the supply chain through every method, every piece of food that McDonald's created to prove that it actually came from a potato, from a chicken, from everything. The public needed proof. This is how sad that is. And McDonald's did this. They spent millions of dollars on this campaign and they were wondering, why isn't it working? What's wrong? The point is, we already know what goes into your food. We don't care. We don't like it. Do what Chipotle does. Be GMO free. Be sustainability focused. That's what the public is asking for, clearly, because they're putting their money into Chipotle. Now imagine if we did this for every stock. If we thought about this way, thought about the long-term effects of every company that went into your retirement planning. It's a different picture altogether, isn't it? Now, I know investing is scary for some. I could opine on that for hours. I won't do that to you today. But it really is something that you should look into on an individual basis. But if you're too afraid to do that, there are other methodologies, and there's mutual funds all over the country now that are becoming increasingly popular that are doing this. This is a chart from the SIF, which is a foundation that reports socially sustainable investing funds. Every 2 years, they do a measurement on it, and this is from their report in 2014. And what they discovered was that total assets in socially screened portfolios has climbed to $5.6 trillion in 2014, which is just a 76% increase in 2 years. From 1995, when this study was initially started, that universe of socially screened portfolios has increased tenfold, almost 930%, because the public wanted it so bad. And the nice thing is the annual return of one of those portfolios, the average annual return is about 13.1%, which is far superior to any market return and certainly better than the 0.000008% you're getting interest in your savings account right now. So in 2014, here's another little, this is a chart for your fun financial statement viewing pleasure. $1 in $6 currently under management in this country is in a socially responsible portfolio. This only accounts for 18% of the total $32 trillion under management right now. Frankly, I think it should be $6 in $6 is in that sort of portfolio. And it's not there yet, but I really do have faith that we'll get there. Now, if you still are not buying me on the investment part, it's okay. I have another plan. This is not scary. This is awesome. This is the best. You don't need any money. You don't need any fancy certification or even an education to do this. You ready? What you do need is an open mind, a level head, and a logical brain. And you're all here at TEDx today, so I know you have these things. You can use what is called the power of activist investors. Now, an activist investor, and this is a big, long, hefty definition, which I will not read, essentially is a person with a lot of money, usually a billionaire, because that helps, who buys the majority ownership in a company in order to make some substantial change of some kind. So maybe they don't like the management, they want them to kick out. They have a good product, they don't know how to market it. They have some team, they have some way, they have a plan, but they like the company and they have a way to fix it. And that's easy to do if you're any one of these fellows, which if any of you are, see me after. Okay, cool. Whoops. Now it's easy to, if you're someone my age, if you're a millennial like me, to get your blood boiled over the fact that they spend your annual salary in about, a few minutes or so. But these guys are a very important solution to the problem at hand. They're a very important solution to making companies sustainable for the future. I like to think of activist investors a little bit like smarter politicians. And this is because their motive is really easy. It's not power, it's money. We can relate to it. It's easy to understand. Now, if you don't believe that this is a real thing, that this can happen, I'll share with you a little bit of a story. This is Warren Buffett. This is my dad. I was just seeing if you were paying attention. Back when I was associate analyst, I supported a portfolio manager, and in his office, he had this framed letter on his desk. And one day, I asked him about it. And he said that he was convinced that he had a really good idea about a certain sector, a certain stock. And so he wrote a letter. He wrote a letter to Warren Buffett saying how much research he did on it and how much he liked this sector and how much he liked this company, and that he should look to include it in Berkshire Hathaway's portfolio. Well, Warren wrote him a letter back, hence the framed letter, but judging by actions that he did recently, he took that advice and he used it. Imagine it. My manager, who is nobody special, though if he were here today, he'd say otherwise, wrote Warren Buffett a letter, a guy whose net worth is $67 billion, the best investor of the 20th century, and convinced him on this idea. Not for any real motive, although his motives might be a little bit different than ours, but same concept. It doesn't matter to a billionaire. An idea is an idea. They can use that. They can definitely use that. So imagine if billionaires like Warren Buffett stopped getting bombarded with death threats and rants about corporate greed and everything, and you actually pointed them in a logical direction of something that is of concern to you. This, just for some instance, these are all companies that Warren Buffett has a majority stakeholder in, and I'm pretty sure you know a lot of these. There you go, Dairy Queen. Everybody loves that. If you wrote to Heinz Ketchup, for example, and you were mad about the fact that they put GMO tomatoes and they were putting too much corn syrup and everything, you think they would listen to you? No, but if you went and said the same thing to Warren Buffett about why this is bad, they're going to listen to him because he owns them. He owns them. It's hard to believe, actually, but billionaires do care about your view, and this is the reason why. You make the money. The millennial group is the largest consumer group in the world right now. There are 92 million of them. And it's rapidly approaching even bigger than the baby boomers, which are dropping off right now. So they know that they need to cater to this group more than anything. Now, I can't tell you what you need to say directly to sway anybody about your opinion, or what your knowledge that you individually hold that you could use to convey your message to the future to these activist investors. But I do have a good example for you. Ready for this? I'm going to show you a picture, and I want you to tell me what you see immediately. Hey, good for you. You know what? You didn't, it's a puzzle. You did not need all those pieces put into place to know that that was the Mona Lisa, right? How many people knew she was facing the wrong direction? Nobody? What? Ugh. The stock market itself is a puzzle. You don't need all the pieces in place in order to see what the picture is, as you've just demonstrated. So what do you see that a billionaire does not see? Or if you invest for yourself, what do you see that the world does not see? Take the pieces that you have, and with the right attitude, you can create this picture, and you can convey that picture to Wall Street, to the world. And I'll leave you with one final little message, that trickle-down economics may leave us with just a couple drops, us poor people. But that's really all that's needed to start a tidal wave of meaningful change. Thank you.